everyone, my name is Sia Sharma and today I'm going to tell you about the structural parts of a cell. So first, let's do a quick recap of what we know till now. We have learned about eukaryotes and prokaryotes and the differences. The main differences between eukaryotes and prokaryotes are that 1. Eukaryotes have a nucleus and membrane-bound organelles such as mitochondria, Golgi apparatus, the lysosomes, chloroplasts, etc. Whereas the prokaryotes, they do not have a nucleus, their genetic material floats freely in the cytoplasm, and they also do not have any membrane-bound organelles. In fact, prokaryotes lack many of the cell organelles which are found in eukaryotic cells. The average size of a eukaryotic cell is around 10 to 100 micrometers, whereas the average size of a prokaryotic cell is around 0.1 to 5 micrometers. So we can say that eukaryotes are bigger in size than the prokaryotes, and they're also much more complex than the prokaryotic cells. So now let's come into the main topic of today's video, which is the structural cell parts. We know that the cell has many parts which carry out many different functions. And in today's video, we're going to learn about those parts of the cell which help in the structure of the cell. And one note is that all of the parts that I'm going to be explaining, they can be found in every organism, whether eukaryotic or prokaryotic. So first, let's start with the cell membrane. Over here, we can see the image of a cell. The boundary that we can see surrounding the cell is called the cell membrane. The cell membrane is also known as the plasma membrane, and its main function is to separate the internal components of the cell from whatever is outside the cell. The cell membrane is also semi-permeable, meaning that it allows certain things in and out of the cell, but doesn't allow other things in. The cell membrane is made up of a phospholipid bilayer. So if we zoom into a part of the cell membrane, this is what it would look like. Here we can see what a general phospholipid would usually look like. And the cell membrane is made up of phospholipid bilayer. So once again, if we come to this image, we can see lots of phospholipids in the image. So a phospholipid bilayer basically means that there are two layers. And in the image also, we can see two layers of the phospholipid, one at the top and one at the bottom. The others are just proteins which are stuck in the cell membrane. The phospholipids have hydrophilic and hydrophobic ends. Hydrophilic, we can say, is something that really likes water or likes to interact with water. And the head of the phospholipid is hydrophilic. Next, hydrophobic is something which does not like water. It doesn't like to interact with water. And so the tail of the phospholipid, it's hydrophobic. Now see again in this image, the head of the phospholipid, it's at the top. So at the top and the bottom. And here it can interact with all of the water which is inside or outside the cell. Whereas the hydrophobic tail, it's stuck safely inside where no water can reach it. Also, one more thing, for hydrophobic, if you want an example of a general hydrophobic thing, you can also take oil. So as you know, oil, it doesn't mix with water, it just floats on the top. So that's one example of another hydrophobic material. So anyways, coming back to this, over here, we can see the microscope images of a cell membrane. So over here, this entire part, this is one cell, and this is another cell at the top. And the orange parts that we can see are the two cell membranes for each cell. Here also, in this image, we can see each individual cell membrane of the cells. Now next, let's come to the cytoplasm. So the organelles of the cell, they aren't just like floating in thin air inside the cell. Instead, they're floating inside the cytoplasm. So the cytoplasm is the jelly-like fluid which fills the cells. The cytoplasm surrounds the cell organelles and it also protects them from damage. The cytoplasm, it also stores molecules required for cellular processes, cellular processes such as metabolism, photosynthesis, homeostasis, etc. The cytoplasm also gives the cell its shape. And over here, we can see the image of a plant cell in a microscope. And though the arrow may look like it's pointing at thin air, but it's actually pointing at the cytoplasm. Here also, we can see the image of a bacteria. The light gray part that we can see inside is the bacteria's genetic material, and the dark gray part surrounding it is the bacteria's cytoplasm. Now finally, let's come to the cytoskeleton. So just like our body has a skeleton to provide support to it, the same way our cells also have a skeleton called the cytoskeleton. So over here is a cross section of a cell. So the top and bottom part that we can see, that is the cell membrane. And inside that, we can also see a few organelles like the mitochondria and the endoplasmic reticulum. Apart from that, all of this purple stuff that you can see over here, along with the yellow tubes at the bottom and the blue tubes, that is all the cell's cytoskeleton. So the cytoskeleton gives structural support to the cell. In this image, all of the green strings that you can see, that is the cell's cytoskeleton. The cytoskeleton helps in cell movement and it also helps in cell division, as you can see in this image over here. The cytoskeleton also helps in another thing called intracellular transport. So what intracellular transport basically is, it's the transport which occurs inside the cell. So inside the cell, there are lots of proteins, there are lots of molecules. And if these proteins or molecules need to be transported to another place inside the cell, they get transported through the cytoskeleton. So we can say that the cytoskeleton, it's kind of like the highways of the cell, to which all the proteins and molecules get transported. The cytoskeleton also is made up of 3 parts. And those 3 parts are microfilaments which are also known as actin filaments, and their function is to help in all of the cellular processes as well as a bit in the intracellular transport. Next is the microtubules. Now the microtubules, they help in the intracellular transport, and these are basically like the main highways of the cell. The third is the intermediate filaments. The intermediate filaments provide structural support to the cell. But unlike the other two, it does not help in intracellular transport. So that's all that I wanted to say today. I hope you understood a bit about the cell's structural parts. Thank you very much. Please stay safe, stay healthy. Thank you.